The price of a single family home in Calgary, Alberta is finally starting to slow down. We are down $2,500 from last month and $3,300 from last year. But come on, guys, that's really not that much. I mean, in the real estate market, these are very small numbers. This is definitely more of a flat line than it is a correction at all, right? So we are seeing a slowdown across the board, but not all areas are as slow as others. Some areas are really dragging this down, where other areas are actually propping it up. So let's start to dive into this. Now, my name's Adam Fyfe, your Calgary real estate agent. If you're looking at understanding more about what's going on in this market, go ahead, click the links in the description, go and read the PDF reports, book a Zoom call. Let's go through the data together, figure out how this can actually go and affect your personal situation. Or if you want to know what your home is valued at in today's market, go ahead, click it in, put it in this AI home evaluation tool. Me or my boy Christian are going to reach out. We're going to say hi, and we're just going to ask a couple questions about what's going on and how we can help. We're not expecting you to sell, but we're here to give you the information needed for you to become an educated homeowner in Calgary. So let's go ahead, figure out what's going on in the single family market, and go on from there. If you want to read this on your own, skip to the next chapter. I'm not offended. Sales in June were almost 1,200 units, 6% lower than both last year and last month's activity. Sales activity did vary depending on location and price range, with declines in resale sales mostly for the higher priced homes that likely face more competition from new homes. On a location basis, the steepest declines in sales occurred in City Center and Northeast at over 20%, while year-over-year gains were reported in the West and Southeast districts. So again, we're seeing this divide in the city. While sales did vary, inventories and new listings improve across most price ranges and districts in the city. However, it is only the Northeast district that is experiencing conditions that favor the buyer, causing prices to decline by 4% compared to last June. As of June, the unadjusted benchmark price was $764,000, less than 1% lower than both last month and last year's prices. So again, we're seeing the steepest declines in the Northeast dragging that number down. Where if you look at other, locations in Calgary, you're seeing still some increases and some flat lines more or less. So let's start to dive into this, right? So this is the total city of Calgary inventory and sales, right? We're seeing somewhat of a flat line in sales activity, but a huge increase in inventory, which is definitely causing our prices to stabilize, right? We're not seeing any massive declines here. We're seeing a stabilization. Now, as you can see, just based off of a very average trend in the city, we're most likely going to see some sales decline going into December, as well as inventory increases, which is most likely going to continue to help this price point fall throughout the city, right? So let's start to dive into this a little bit. Now, this is the statistics for the entire city. Once again, we've got just the month of June last year and this year, and then the year-to-date averages, okay? So we're not going to spend a whole lot of time here, but I'm going to look at the year-to-date. So you can see that just the difference in the sales volume, right? I got to zoom out here. A little bit of a difference in the new listings, right? We're seeing about 2,000 more new listings come to the market. Inventory has increased by 80%, almost doubling the year-to-date average, right? You can see the months of supply, again, greatly increasing from last year. We were in an ultra seller's market last year. 1 month of supply is crazy. Right now we're at more of a balanced market condition, still favoring the seller, right? Both for the year-to-date average as well as the month specifically. Sales to new listings ratio is down quite a bit at 55%. The sales to list price is still quite high, 99%, but it's below the over 100% that we saw last year. Days on market is increased, and then the benchmark prices and averages we're going to talk about a little bit later on. What I found interesting was just for the year-to-date purpose, we're actually above last year, right? We're at averaging year-to-date about 826,000, but for the month specifically, we're actually down from last year for the average price point, meaning more of those lower-end priced homes are selling over those luxury market homes, okay? And I say lower price homes, and I know that people are going to comment about that. Is what it is. Homes on average here are definitely like 700 plus, okay? A lot different than what we've seen. So year-to-date sales, adding up all the sales through the year, we're down quite a bit, right? We're actually below 2015 and 2017 levels, okay? And we've seen an increase in inventory and people moving here quite a bit from those from that time, 2015, 2017. So it's, slowing down, right? It's obvious. It's obvious to see, and people are just adjusting to this new normal. You can see such a huge shift in price point, right? 2023, 2024, the green bars, right? You got 400, 500, 600, but now we're starting to shift. We're getting away from those lower priced homes into the more higher end prices. And again, you can even see the million plus is actually seeing increases in most amount of sales that we've seen in the last 5 years. Okay, so more of a shift from 600 plus. Now, interestingly enough, this is an education piece for us, right? This is something that we need to put into consideration. So let's look at this. We have a year-to-date sale of under $100,000. So it's like, well, how did a detached home sell under $100,000? This is why it's so important to take this thing with a grain of salt. There was an accident made on Pillar 9 where someone actually put the closed price at $550. I'm surprised they didn't go back in and fix it, but here we are with a number that's actually driving the percentages down, right? It's only one sale, it's a drop in the bucket, but at the end of the day, you got to make sure that, this is stuff that we need to make sure that we're going to just take with a grain of salt, right? So we want to make sure that we understand that there's human error and there's stuff that happens in this kind of realm that is not 100% accurate all the time. So let's make sure that when you are looking at this stuff, to make sure to do some additional research, fact check, and go ahead and figure out what's going on. Because that was surprising to me, and I thought maybe it was like some crazy foreclosure sale, some decrepit house that basically was just the land, but no, it was just a mistake. So let's continue to look on here. Sales by price range, right? You're looking at the blue bars here, which is the single family homes. You can see that the southern quadrant is the biggest quadrant, seeing the most amount of activity, where the eastern quadrant is the smallest, seeing the lowest amount of activity. But you can just start to figure out where a lot of that movement is in the city. Now, when we shifted over to new listings here, this is an interesting one. Obviously, this was pretty expected, right? We're going to see an increase of new listings, especially over the last few years where limited inventories were on the market, causing that price to increase rapidly. So it is welcoming news. We are not at the 2021, 2002 levels yet, but we are seeing an increase over the last few years, getting away from that hot sellers market, which is fantastic. So when we look at the numbers here, we're going to look just over here. So we got your sales, your new listings, your inventory, your days on market. So again, looking at the days on market from literally the highs, the peak of the peak in Calgary in general is with June and July of last year, the 2 months right here, 767,000. So we're only down $3,000 from that. So I mean, we are very, very, very close to what the peaks were last year. So have we seen a massive shift in the market? No, we've just seen a slowing down. It's probably going to be a gradual slowdown as we continue to go throughout the year. Benchmark price is down, right? The median price is down from last month, but fairly similar to what it was last year. And the average price is down from last month, actually down considerably over the last 3 months, right? The lower priced homes are selling more than the upper end, but it's still, again, fairly in line with what it was last year. Again, you can look at July, August, September, the average price is right there. So with that in mind, right, this is a months of supply. This is just a really good indicator as what the market is doing. We can obviously see a gradual increase in months of supply, meaning the market is slowing down. We haven't seen, a huge slowdown from the interest rate spikes that we saw in 2022, and then a very quick, again, going down to some of those lows in June of this year, 2023. Now we're starting to see a trend going up. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if we get up into the threes, maybe the 3.5s, but I just don't, at this moment, I know people love to comment about this, but I just don't see a massive slowdown. Calgary still has people moving here. We still have buyers wanting to soak up our real estate, especially the single family homes. It is way more affordable than some of the major population centers in Canada, and I just don't see any major shifts going on in the city. Gradual slowdown is welcoming news. This is awesome for us to see. So we need to break it down, right? So yes, we are seeing a slowdown in total in the city, but not every quadrant is seeing it. Look at all of these quadrants here. You've got your southeast, your south, your west, your northwest, all at 2 months of supply, which is still a seller's market. Still a seller's market favoring the seller. If you price your home correctly, you put it up on the market at a good price, it's going to sell. You're looking at northeast and east here, 4 months and above, that's a buyer's market, right? You need to make sure that you have a little bit more caution when putting your home up on the market for sale, or as a buyer, you have a lot more patience and you have a little bit more options to choose from. Again, if a home is priced excellent, it's got good marketing, it's going to be busy. Even as a buyer, you still need to jump on the opportunities if it fits your personal circumstances, because I do notice that even in the Northeast, these things still move, right? It's not like every single quadrant is seeing properties sit on the market for long, right? The average is 30 days on market, but I can tell you for a fact that in these quadrants here, it's definitely near 20 days, right? It's a lot faster moving than some of these quadrants that are seeing some slow growth. So with that in mind, we are seeing year-over-year declines across almost all quadrants, right? The only quadrant that saw an increase was south, and it's only a 1% increase. Everything else is slowing down. Again, biggest slowdowns northeast and east compared to the other quadrants in the city. So how does that affect you, right? This is a really cool tool. I bring it up on every video. I think it's super neat. If you want to go and find out what your home is valued at, scan this QR code. Me or my boy Christian are going to reach out. We're going to say, hi, what do you think of that value? How can we help? Do you need some sort of assistance with a mortgage broker or any sort of information about what's going on in the real estate market? Are you looking to make a game plan in the next 5 years? Whatever, right? We're not expecting everyone to go ahead and just list their property magically, but we want to provide this value for you, for those who are interested in figuring out what their home is valued at, how much equity they have, and then maybe just planning some next steps for the next year, 2 or 3, right? No big deal. So let's break this down, right? So we're looking at the individual quadrants of Calgary, and you can see that some of the quadrants are still moving relatively quick, right? So if we zoom out here, we make this a little bit bigger, and we look at stuff like the west portion, right? The most expensive quadrant in the entire city, still at 74% sales to new listing ratio and under 2 months of supply, averaging a $990 benchmark price. Last month, I spoke about this. It was over $1 million. First time in Calgary's history, the benchmark price was over $1 million in this quadrant, and now it dropped $18,000. Didn't completely wipe out the gains from last month, but they did see a significant drop, just showing how much fluctuation we have in these higher end markets, right? Still a lot of movement, still a lot of interest for these higher end homes in Calgary, but we are noticing a slowdown in general, right? You're looking at the opposite end of scale. Again, you got 318 new listings and only 120 sales at 37 sales to new listings ratio, with the months of supply at 4.5. Clearly a buyer's market. Benchmark price is $588, significantly lower than West and City Center, and they still saw a decrease 2 months in a row of around $16,000, right? So Northeast definitely struggling with inventory levels. There's a lot of new construction there. There's a lot of more affordable homes, but there's a lot of investment. There's a lot of people putting their homes up on the market, so you want to make sure that you're going back to the market here and you're looking at what's going on. So with that in mind, this is where it gets super important for the general population and for your specific situation as to what is going on in specific areas, right? So if we look at the last 30 days of detached sales, right? This is just 30 days starting from July 4th is when I'm recording this. You had about 1,200 sales, right? You have 364 pending listings and you have 2,700 active homes on the market, right? If we go here and we just go looking at just the close date, right? We're only just sorting this by what sold yesterday, and you can still see quite a bit of homes are selling 99%, some homes even selling over 100% sales to list price, dropping all the way down to around 86, right? But the 86, you're looking at Silverado, you're looking at 1.6, selling for 1.3, good for that realtor for the negotiations. Again, 92%, 2.3 selling for 2.1. Those are huge differences in price point, really dropping that down. But the average 98, 99%. And you can, again, if we really wanted to, we can go and actually look at these days on market, but I would just say the average is around 25, 30 days, just as what it was. Again, looking at the pendings, right? Just looking at list date, you can see still things pending relatively quick on the market. Literally came on the market yesterday, pending already, right? There's only 4 in the entire city, but good homes still move. Look at, again, 1.3, moving really quickly. Actives, we're not going to dive into it, but there's a lot of options in general for you to choose from. So if you are interested in these numbers, let's create a call. Let's go and figure out how the heck this is going to change your personal situation. So with this in mind, I say so a lot, you can see that we're down, right? We have had a fairly consistent drop in year-over-year benchmark price for the last, let's just call it 14, 16 months. Which is fine. This is welcoming news for Calgary. We went through some crazy highs, right? We had, 12, almost 20%, and then we averaged around like 12, 13% year-over-year growth. Boom, boom, boom. We never saw some negatives. We've had consistent growth since mid-2020. And we've just had growth. And now we're starting to slow down, which is welcoming news. It would be nice if we stay here for a little while. Again, I don't see any sharp declines. I don't see a major crash or correction happening. Just a general slowdown in Calgary, which is awesome news to hear. The city is growing. We're seeing things kind of stable out a little bit. Our unemployment rate, it's still elevated. We're at 7%, but we still have people moving here. I think the stat was around 40,000 people in Q1 have moved to Alberta, even still, right? In Q1 2025. Last year, I think it was like 90,000 in general of all of 2024, and we still have people coming here, which is still going to prop up our market. We're probably not going to see a crash. That's my personal opinion. So it is great to see, again, 2020, we've seen consistent price growth all throughout the year. Now we're starting to see a slowdown. How much are we going to drop? I don't think it's going to be very much, but that's my personal opinion. I know people love to comment. Ask your questions. Comment below. Let me know your thoughts. I'm more than happy to have conversations. I try my best to reply to all comments and have general conversations with people because I find it super unique. And some people actually have really good statements and really good comments about what they believe is happening in the market and why things are going the way that they're going. So thank you very much. If you have any questions, I look forward to you reaching out. Go ahead, use the AI tool. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.